My girlfriend said I made a mistake. I chose the wrong person. Please take me back after I caught her holding hands with another guy at Walmart 3 hours after she texted me she was staying home with a migraine. What happened next completely destroyed any chance of us ever getting back together. Look, I never thought I would be the guy posting relationship drama on Reddit. But here I am at 2 in the morning staring at my laptop screen because I cannot sleep, and I honestly think I might be losing my mind. I need someone to tell me if what just happened is as crazy as it feels or if I am completely overreacting. My girlfriend Maddie and I have been together for 5 months. I know that doesn't sound like long, but things moved pretty fast between us and I genuinely thought we had something real. She is this social, bubbly bartender who runs a small online shop on the side. Always the life of the party, super charming with everyone she meets. I am basically the opposite. A 25-year-old it guy who prefers quiet nights at home working on coding projects or playing games. We seem to balance each other out, you know. But Tuesday night happened, and I cannot get the image out of my head. I was at Walmart around 9 p.m. grabbing groceries because my fridge was basically empty, and I had been living on takeout for 3 days straight, just minding my own business, walking through the produce section when I see this couple standing by the banana display, and my stomach literally drops to the floor. It was Maddie, with some guy I had never seen before in my life. And they weren't just talking casually. They were full-on intimate. Her head was resting on his shoulder, his arm was around her waist, and they were holding hands like they had been together for years. I kept my distance so they wouldn't see me, but I was close enough to clearly see everything. The way she looked so comfortable with him, so natural. Like this wasn't their first time being affectionate together. I am standing there holding a bag of frozen corn, feeling like I am about to throw up, because literally 3 hours earlier she had texted me saying her migraine was getting worse, and she was staying home for the night, probably going to bed early. She even added a heart emoji. I just froze. Part of me wanted to walk over there and demand an explanation, but honestly I was so shocked I couldn't even move. So I did what any rational person would do. I quietly finished my shopping while staying as far away from them as possible, and then went home to stare at my ceiling for the next 6 hours. But here is the thing that is really messing with my head, and why I think I might actually be dating someone who has been manipulating me this whole time. This isn't the first red flag, not even close. 3 weeks ago, my aunt passed away unexpectedly, and I went to the viewing with my family. It was incredibly emotional and difficult, especially for my mom since this was her younger sister and they were really close. I specifically told Maddie that I needed this time to focus on family, that it wasn't appropriate for her to come since she would never met my aunt, and it would just add unnecessary stress to an already painful situation. So imagine my shock when I walk out of the funeral home, after 2 hours of trying to comfort my grieving mother, and see Maddie sitting in her car in the parking lot. Just waiting there, like she had been stalking the place. When I approached her car completely confused and honestly pretty angry, she rolled down her window and said she just wanted to see me for a second because she was worried about me. But the way she said it, with this weird possessive tone, made my skin crawl. I told her how inappropriate and invasive it felt, especially on such a difficult day for my family. That is when she completely flipped the script on me. Started crying, saying she was just trying to be supportive and that I was being paranoid and controlling for not wanting her there. She made me feel like I was the crazy one for being upset that my girlfriend of 4 months had shown up uninvited to my family's funeral. Now I am starting to realize that every single time I have tried to set a boundary or express discomfort about something, Maddie finds a way to turn it around and make me feel like I am the problem. Like I am overreacting or being unreasonable or not appreciating her efforts. And the Walmart thing, God, I still cannot believe what I saw. The way they were touching each other, the comfortable intimacy between them. It was obvious this wasn't some new thing. This has been going on for a while. I haven't confronted her yet because honestly, I am terrified of the gaslighting that is coming. She is going to have some explanation that makes me sound insane for even questioning what I saw with my own eyes. She always does. But Reddit, I need you to tell me, am I losing my mind here? Is showing up uninvited to your boyfriend's aunt's funeral normal behavior? Is holding hands with another man while telling your boyfriend you are sick at home something people do in healthy relationships? Because right now I feel like I am questioning my own sanity, and I need someone to confirm that my gut instinct is right about this. What would you do in my situation? Update 1. I am back with the update I promised. And honestly, I wish I wasn't, because this whole situation has spiraled into something I never could have imagined. So I confronted Maddie yesterday evening. I picked a moment when we were both calm and sitting on my couch, and I just came right out with it. I told her I saw her at Walmart with another guy being intimate and affectionate, just hours after she had told me she was staying home sick. The reaction was exactly what I expected, but somehow still worse than I imagined. First came the denial. She looked me straight in the eye and said I must have been mistaken, that I probably saw someone who looked like her, but it definitely wasn't her because she was home with a migraine like she had told me. When I insisted that I was absolutely certain it was her, she switched tactics. Then came the gaslighting. She started crying and saying I was being paranoid and jealous, that this was exactly the kind of controlling behavior she had been worried about. She said I was becoming obsessive, and that healthy relationships require trust. The audacity of that statement, considering what I had witnessed, made my blood boil. But here is where it gets really messed up, when I wouldn't back down and kept pressing for the truth. She finally admitted she was at Walmart that night. But get this. She claimed the guy was just a friend from work who was going through a hard time and needed emotional support. She said the physical intimacy I witnessed was just her being a good friend to someone in crisis. I asked her why she lied about being sick at home if she was just helping a friend. And she said she knew I would be weird about it because I am jealous of her male friends. She actually tried to make me feel guilty for not being supportive of her helping someone in need. The manipulation was so blatant and sophisticated that for a moment, I almost started to doubt myself again. Almost. But then I thought about all the other weird stuff that has been happening over the past few weeks that I had been brushing off, like how she has suddenly become super protective of her phone. She used to leave it lying around, and we had sometimes look at each other's social media or show each other funny messages. Now she takes it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. And she has changed her lock screen so I cannot see her notifications. Or how she has been having these mysterious late nights where she says she is meeting friends, but can never give me specific details about where they went or what they did. When I ask casual questions the next day, her stories don't quite add up, or how she has been deleting her text message history constantly. The few times she handed me her phone to show me something, I noticed all her message threads looked like they had just started, like she was constantly clearing her conversations. After our confrontation, I spent the entire night lying awake thinking about every interaction we have had recently, and honestly, the signs have been there for weeks. I just didn't want to see them because I was falling for this person and I wanted to believe we had something real. But what really gets me is how she turned my legitimate concerns into character flaws on my part. How she made me feel like I was being controlling and paranoid for noticing that my girlfriend was acting shady and then catching her in an outright lie. I am starting to understand that this isn't just about cheating. This is about being with someone who is willing to manipulate my perception of reality to cover up her own behavior. Someone who will look me in the eye and lie, then make me feel bad for not believing the lie. I haven't decided what I am going to do yet. Part of me wants to break up with her immediately, but another part of me is wondering if I should try to work through this. We talked about maybe doing couples counseling to rebuild trust, and she seemed open to the idea. I don't know. Maybe I am being naive, but 5 months feels like something worth fighting for if she is genuinely willing to change and be honest with me. What do you think? Is couples counseling worth trying when someone has been this manipulative? Or am I just setting myself up for more heartbreak? I will keep you updated on what happens next. Update 2, I am back, and honestly I don't even know where to start with this update because everything has completely fallen apart in ways I never could have predicted. Remember how I mentioned we were going to try couples counseling? Well, that lasted exactly 2 sessions before Maddie decided she had better things to do with her time. The first session was actually hopeful. Our therapist was this calm, professional woman who made both of us feel comfortable talking about our issues. Maddie admitted that she hadn't been completely honest with me about her friendship with this guy, whose name I learned is Nathan, and she promised to be more transparent going forward. I thought we were making progress. I really did. But then something changed after that second session. Instead of working on rebuilding trust like we had discussed, Maddie started going out to clubs 3 nights a week with her friends. And I am not talking about casual drinks after work. I am talking about full-blown clubbing until 2 or 3 in the morning, coming home completely wasted. Here is the thing. When we first got serious about 4 months ago, we had a conversation about boundaries and expectations. We both agreed that constant clubbing wasn't compatible with a committed relationship, especially the kind of scene where people are drinking heavily and the whole environment is designed around hooking up with strangers. It wasn't about controlling each other. It was about respecting what we were building together. But suddenly, none of that mattered anymore. The worst part was when she asked me to pick her up from one of these clubs because her friends had abandoned her and she was too intoxicated to drive. I drove 20 minutes across town at midnight, found her stumbling around the parking lot barely able to stand, and had to basically carry her to my car while she loudly told me about all the guys who had been buying her drinks. I felt humiliated. Not because she had been drinking, but because it was so obvious she didn't respect our relationship or the boundaries we had established together. She was treating me like a convenient ride service while actively doing things she knew would hurt me. When I tried to talk to her about it the next day, she said I was being controlling again and that she needed space to be herself. She said couples counseling was making her feel like she had to change who she was just to make me happy. That is when I realized she never had any intention of actually working on our relationship. The counseling was just something she agreed to so she could say she tried. But Reddit, wait until you hear what I found out about Nathan, because this whole situation is so much more screwed up than I originally thought. Last week, one of Maddie's coworkers, this girl named Jessica who actually likes me and has always been straight with me, pulled me aside when I was picking Maddie up from work. She looked really uncomfortable but said she needed to tell me something important. Jessica told me she had been overhearing Maddie's phone calls during breaks and listening to her constantly complain about Nathan's temporary money problems. Plus, Nathan had been hanging around the bar where they work, acting like he owned the place and bragging to anyone who would listen about his situation. Turns out Nathan isn't just some friend going through a hard time. He is a 28-year-old guy who is unemployed and has 3 kids with 2 different women. He is behind on child support payments, has no stable income, and according to what Jessica heard from Nathan himself, he has been bouncing between different women's couches for the past year because he cannot afford his own place. But here is the really messed up part. Jessica told me that Maddie has been talking about Nathan at work for weeks, going on and on about how misunderstood he is and how he just needs someone to believe in him. She has been lending him money, buying him groceries, and apparently convinced herself that she can fix his life. This isn't some random affair or moment of weakness. Maddie has been actively pursuing this guy, supporting him financially, and building a whole fantasy relationship while lying to my face about what was happening. Jessica also mentioned that Nathan is apparently very charming and knows exactly what to say to make women feel special and needed. From what she observed when he came into the bar, the guy is basically a professional manipulator who targets women with money and stability, and Maddie fell for it completely. Nathan had been more careful at first, but after getting comfortable with Maddie's support, he started taking bigger risks and getting sloppy about hiding what he was doing. That is probably why I saw them together so openly at Walmart. So now I am sitting here realizing that my girlfriend of 5 months has been emotionally and probably physically involved with an unemployed father of 3 who is using her for money and a place to stay. She threw away what we had for someone who is obviously taking advantage of her kindness and financial stability. The irony is that she accused me of being controlling while she was literally being controlled by some guy who saw her as a meal ticket. I haven't confronted her about what Jessica told me yet because, honestly, I am still processing all of this. But I think I know how this is going to end. What would you do in this situation? Is there any point in even having another conversation with her? Or should I just cut my losses and move on? Part of me feels bad for her because it is obvious Nathan is manipulating her. But another part of me is furious that she destroyed our relationship for someone who is clearly using her. I will update again soon because I have a feeling this is all about to come to a head. Final update. Hey Reddit. This is my final update. And honestly, I never could have predicted how perfectly this whole mess would resolve itself. Last week, Maddie showed up at my apartment at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night, crying hysterically and begging me to let her in. I almost didn't answer the door because we hadn't spoken in over a week after our last fight about her clubbing behavior. But something about how desperate she sounded made me open it. She was a complete mess. Mascara running down her face, hair disheveled, still wearing her work uniform from the bar. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. The first words out of her mouth were exactly what I quoted in my title. I made a mistake. I chose the wrong person. Please take me back. I just stood there staring at her, not saying anything because I honestly couldn't believe the audacity. After months of gaslighting me, lying to my face, manipulating every conversation we had, and throwing away our relationship for some unemployed guy who was obviously using her, she thought she could just show up and expect me to take her back. She started rambling about how sorry she was, how she realized Nathan wasn't who she thought he was, how she had been confused and made terrible decisions. She said she missed me and missed what we had together, and that she finally understood I was the better man. I let her talk for about 5 minutes before I calmly stopped her. "Maddie," I said, "you lied to me for months. You manipulated me, gaslit me, and made me question my own sanity. You threw away what we had for someone who was obviously using you." She tried to interrupt with more apologies and explanations, but I continued. "The thing is, I saw exactly who you really are when you showed up at my aunt's funeral uninvited. I saw who you are when you looked me in the eye and lied about being sick while you were out with Nathan. You only came back because he dumped you, not because you actually care about me." Her face went completely white because she knew I was right. "I am done, Maddie. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it." But here's where the story gets really interesting, and why I am calling this my final update. After I refused to take her back and she left my apartment still crying, I started hearing things through mutual friends about what had actually happened with Nathan. Turns out the fantasy relationship Maddie had built up in her head came crashing down in the most predictable way possible. Nathan had been staying at her apartment for the past 3 weeks, supposedly while he looked for work and got back on his feet. But instead of job hunting, he had been inviting friends over, throwing parties, and treating her place like his personal entertainment venue. Maddie came home from work one day to find him passed out on her couch with 2 other people she would never met. Her kitchen destroyed, and several of her valuable items missing. When she confronted him about it, he laughed and told her she was being uptight, said she should be grateful. He was giving her attention because most guys wouldn't want to deal with someone as needy and dramatic as her. But the real kicker, Jessica from Maddie's work told me that Nathan has apparently done this exact same thing to at least 2 other women in the past year. He has got a whole system where he targets women who are working and financially stable, makes them feel special and needed, moves in under the pretense of temporary help, and then treats their homes like his personal crash pad until they kick him out. Maddie wasn't special to him. She was just his latest mark. The poetic justice doesn't end there, though. Nathan's ex-girlfriends, the mothers of his children, had been trying to track him down for months because he owed thousands in back child support. With Nathan using her address for official documents, she had process servers and debt collectors showing up at her door. Her building management threatened her lease over unauthorized long-term guests and the disturbances his friends were causing. She fell behind on rent after covering Nathan's expenses and replacing the items that went missing during his parties, so she had to move back in with her parents. She is also apparently struggling at work because the drama with Nathan and the legal complications have been affecting her performance. Meanwhile, I have been channeling all my energy into something I would put on the back burner during our relationship. I have always been passionate about indie game development, but between work and trying to maintain a relationship with someone who was constantly creating drama, I hadn't had time to focus on it. These past few weeks of being single, I have been staying up late working on a small puzzle game I designed. Nothing major, just something simple and clean that I built from scratch. I submitted it to a few indie gaming forums and competitions, and it is actually starting to get some positive attention. A couple of small gaming blogs have written about it, and I have gotten messages from other developers who want to collaborate on future projects. For the first time in months, I feel like myself again. I feel focused and creative and excited about the future instead of constantly wondering what my girlfriend was really doing or who she was really with. I realized that the person I was becoming in that relationship, constantly suspicious and anxious and second-guessing myself, that wasn't who I actually am. That was just who I became when I was with someone who was actively lying to me and manipulating me. Sometimes losing someone is exactly how you find yourself again. As for Maddie, I don't take pleasure in her suffering because I am not that kind of person, but there is definitely something satisfying about watching someone face the natural consequences of their own choices. She chose to throw away a stable, loving relationship with someone who respected her for a fantasy, with someone who was obviously using her. Now she gets to live with that decision. The truth is, I dodged a massive bullet. If she was willing to lie and manipulate and cheat after just 5 months together, Imagine what our relationship would have looked like after a year or 2 years, or if we had moved in together or gotten married. I am grateful I found out who she really was before I invested any more time or emotional energy into someone who was never going to be honest with me. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, trust your gut. If someone is making you question your own sanity, if they are constantly turning your legitimate concerns into character flaws on your part, if they are hiding their phone and deleting messages and lying about where they have been, believe what you are seeing. Don't let someone gaslight you into accepting behavior that you know is wrong. You deserve someone who is honest with you, someone who respects the boundaries you establish together, and someone who chooses you every day instead of making you wonder if you are good enough. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this whole mess. Your comments and advice helped me realize I wasn't crazy and gave me the strength to stand up for myself when it mattered most. I am doing great now, and I am excited to see what comes next.